Morning, everybody. Rodrigo Fondor here with another episode of Asheville Real Estate News, joined by Tyler Garrison. And known you for it's been about a year now.
I think so.
We know each other for a couple of different reasons. I know you're a local entrepreneur here in the area, and it's also to talk about that, but also an activist. So I don't even know how to introduce you as far as which hat you're wearing, which day, and everything. But it'd be great if you maybe wanted to give people a little bit of insight who you are, what you're doing, how you ended up in Asheville, and take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So my I guess my greatest claim to fame is that I'm your friend. And so I know the great Rodrigo, so that's good. I do have a lot of hats I wear. I have a store here in Asheville called the Regeneration Station, and a junk removal business here, and as well as a moving company, and then I sit on a board of this amazing environmental nonprofit that's challenging corporate rule and really helping communities build renewable infrastructure to really challenge the oil oligarchy and really help combat climate change and the things that are affecting so many communities, including our own here.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to sit down and chat with you today and talk about the energy component as far as what's happening here in our local area with that. A lot of this show is based on real estate and real estate related items, and I thought this was an interesting tie-in and perspective that, or maybe a story that not everybody's aware of, and it's give the opportunity for people to learn a little bit more about it, decide if they want to do more research on it, and if they do, maybe you can give people a little bit of a context of what the conversation is, what are the 2 points of the conversation, and then what's next depending what side you fall on.
Well, some of the folks in the real estate world, depending on where they're at in the country right now, you don't have to ask them the effects of the energy crisis. You don't have to ask them the effects of climate change. You go talk to the folks in Miami, Florida right now, or you go talk to the folks in parts of California, or places where, imagine your property value not depreciating by 10%, which for some people would be like horrific.
Right.
But imagine it going from where it's at to nothing.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
And not only nothing, but to it will never be worth something again. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of the world and country is facing right now. And I think that's one of the conversations that of course is happening, but I don't know that it's happening to the degree of which it really should be happening. 40% of the world's population lives within just a few miles of coast. 40%, that includes here in our own country. Where are those people going to go when those waters continue to rise? They're going to come to places like Asheville and Greenville and whatnot, and all of a sudden we've got a new problem on our hand. And I think that very much big picture affects everybody who's looking into real estate.
We recently just had the effects of that, right? With the storms, storms and the hurricanes over here. I mean, how many people from the coasts ended up staying in Asheville for a couple of days, week, etc. I know, a lot of people who have rentals or short-term rentals or work in the bed and breakfast industry were packed out. So
absolutely, and then you've got some specific issues that maybe aren't necessarily just storms and catastrophic issues that affect all of us, and really kind of become the core of what's happening, at least for us with this fight, which is how do we...
So what is the fight, though?
Yeah, so the fight for us, so
30 seconds, and somebody's
I can even do it shorter than that.
Okay, shorter is fine.
For us, the fight is really simple, which is, what's the answer? What's the solution? Where do you go to?
What's the answer to what question?
Well, the question is how do you combat this thing called climate change?
Okay.
How do we reverse this? How do we end? How do we bring this back into harmony? Right. And that's of course a very complicated answer with many pieces. But one of the big pieces for us is taking a look at how we can integrate ourselves back into an energy grid that is sustainable, that's renewable, that isn't creating more problems.
So you all are talking that at a local level right now, right?
Local level. So please.
Is there any model that shows that that's a realistic goal? Or is
Absolutely.
Has that been played out somewhere where you'd say, this is possible because we've seen it here or whatnot?
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing when you start to research this. Most people wouldn't even believe the conversations that I've had. So my first thing to do was answer that question. So I started going out and looking at what cities and countries around the world have already done this. Are there anybody that done this? And what I found is there's this massive list.
So proof of concept exists.
Proof of concept exists.
Okay.
There's this massive list just here in our own country. Give you an example of this.
Perfect, yeah.
One of the cities I talked to here in our own country is Palo Alto, California.
Okay.
And Palo Alto saw this problem many years ago and said, we don't want to do business with PG&E anymore. We want to become our own utility. We're going to shoot for 100% renewable energy. I called, when I saw that they had made that goal, I called and talked to Lalo Perez. He's the CFO of Palo Alto.
Okay.
Picked up the phone, called me back.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. You can do this, Pete. We can just call up municipalities that have done this and say, how'd you do it? And here's what was fascinating. They are now 40% cheaper than PG&E.
Okay.
Now think about that. PG&E is probably one of the biggest utilities in the world. This little tiny town, Paul, 40% less expensive. The crazy part to me, though, is he said, well, we're 17 years ahead of our goal. Now think about that.
That's huge.
For anybody who knows anything about dealing with municipalities, they're
That's
never 17 years. I mean, like, usually it's the other direction, right? Like, if
They're 17 years behind.
right? Like, they're usually the other direction on anything they do. To be so I had to ask the obvious question: how on earth are y'all 17 years ahead of goal? And he said the renewable contracts right now are so agreeable, we couldn't afford not to go ahead and make the switch over.
So, man, that's really exciting to hear that. And after you had that conversation, proof of concept within our own country, in California, they say what happens in California eventually follows, right? It's the town.
Right.
So, what's the next
We've
step
got a
for
problem.
you all here?
Well, we've got a
saying
problem.
Palo Alto did it. What do we do to make that happen in Asheville, in your opinion, then?
Well, we have a major problem.
What's the major problem?
So, and it's not just Palo Alto. Many other countries and places around the world are doing this. And what you find everywhere that they're doing this is, not only are renewables not more expensive any longer, they're 100% cheaper. I shouldn't say 100% cheaper, but they're a lot less expensive, and more importantly, they create more jobs. But here's the major problem. We have a democracy problem, and we have a major democracy problem.
I would not have expected that to be what you were saying.
I would say it's the fundamental problem in our country. We have a major democracy problem, and most people out there listening on some level know about this.
Okay.
We have corporate rule in this country. We are no longer a government of the people, for the people, by the people. We are now a government of large corporate interests who can use their financial influence to create a will, through lobbying,
influence,
to create a will beyond. I'll give you an example here in our state, and this is going to be true for many states out there.
Okay.
We have a city here, Asheville, North Carolina, that has amazing local politicians. We're a pretty socially liberal.
It's dynamic.
It's dynamic. However, because of large corporate interests, we don't have a right, according to the laws on the books, to protect ourselves from, for example, the coal ash pits that are poisoning our neighbors. We don't have a right to say no and ban the depleted uranium that's coming through our city. That if 1 ounce of gets in our water system, we will literally have to vacate this city. All of us, like for 15 years. It's a big deal. We don't have a right to say no to that, let alone build our own utility, even if it's agreeable to do so.
And that's a law. So we don't have that right because it's state law.
Well, it's not actually.
Okay.
And this gets back to the democracy problem. Actually, it was a ruling upheld by one state, a state Supreme Court called Dillon's Rule. It was a ruling on a case, Dillon's
Our
case.
state in North Carolina?
No, not even here. But some states can choose to uphold Dillon's Rule, or that ruling. Some states do not. And that ruling basically said, does a local marketplace, does a local town or city have the ability to challenge state preemption? Okay. Can we stand... Please.
Sorry, could you define state preemption?
So, state preemption is when a state says, we want you to do this, even if it hurts your neighbors, and you and your marketplace say, we don't want to do that. And the state says, tough, we're the state, do what you want.
So that's what's happening right now with this.
And that's what's happening right now. And so, and it's happening in many issues. In fact, it's happening on almost every major issue.
Right.
And so the reality is we have to, as citizens begin to challenge us, and they're doing so effectively all across the country.
And yeah. So challenging the concept of state preemption here in Asheville, right?
Right. Yeah.
To summarize.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you're very vested in that process, and have, from conversations we've had and things I've seen and read, it looks like you all have made major headway in raising awareness and getting involvement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
I think we're working on it. There's so much still to go, but yeah.
Obviously, but I mean, from where you were, let's say a year ago, in the same.
I wasn't hanging off buildings a year ago, that's for sure.
That's true. That is true. But I mean, there's you all have been to the point where there is community events that you've been able to be part of, put together.
Absolutely.
People are showing up. People are wanting to talk. People are interested in having a conversation. Right? Would that be a fair?
Totally. It's built beyond what I honestly imagined it would be at right now.
Okay. So it's major progress. Obviously, always work to do on anything you believe in.
Of course. Yeah.
And
but no, major progress. There's now a coalition of dozens of other environmental nonprofits that are all working towards this issue. There's so many different elected officials. I could go on and on, but yes, I agree.
So,
yeah.
Question for anybody who owns property here in the Asheville area.
Mm-hmm.
What is there a direct effect to them, or is this just an environmental issue?
That's a great question.
What do you say to somebody who says, like, look, I don't believe in global warming,
yeah.
but if it affects me personally as a property owner, okay, I'm interested in having the conversation.
Sure.
What's the pitch to that person?
So usually I just stop talking about climate change in general for those folks. Because the reality is we found that science, facts, things like that are just not effective. Should be, maybe to you or me, but it doesn't matter. So when that happens, what I often find is a lot of those folks speak a different language, and it's not a bad language, but it's a language of things like loyalty, liberty, jobs, things like that. And if you really care about those things, then you care about this issue. And I'll give you an example here in this market.
Perfect. Thank you.
So right now, our utility is called Duke Energy. For those who don't live in North Carolina, we have a power company. It's the number one. It's the largest in the world. It's the biggest investor-owned utility in the world.
Okay.
Duke Power is the biggest in the world.
Gotcha.
They currently, of the top 30 investor-owned utilities, they rank 30th for sustainability. They rank 19th for
green.
Renewable energy.
Okay, gotcha.
And they're the biggest in the world, so it's tragic. It's disgusting, quite frankly. But in this marketplace right now, they're asking for billions of dollars in rate increases. What are these rate increases for? These rate increases are to pay for, and when I say rate increase, what I'm talking about is every single person in this whole state, their utility bills are going to go up to the tune of nearly 17%.
Holy cow. Okay.
So now imagine you as an investor,
Yeah.
and depending on how you're investing, maybe you got rental properties, maybe some of those are net, included. How that affects your portfolio?
Sure.
How does that affect your
Just if you're individual homeowner or renter? Nobody wants to see a 17% increase in a utility bill.
And the people it affects the most, and I know you deal a lot with these folks and try to help them out, the people it affects the most are low income and minority communities.
Correct.
By a long shot. For some people, 17% they don't care, but for some folks, that literally changes where they have to live.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It cannot go unstated what very subtle changes to cost of living can do to location, as far as where you end up choosing to live.
I'm sure you've heard all sorts of sad stories about that. And
so that's an example of why you are very passionate about challenging.
Well, may I finish? May I just
sorry.
I just want to add one thing to that and say this. So a rate increase is one thing, but rate increases are going to happen. Inflation's a real thing. That's not the worst part of the story. The worst part of the story is why are these rate increases happening? The reason these rate increases are happening is they're asking us as citizens to pay for their coal ash cleanup. What is coal ash cleanup? They are literally they've poisoned the groundwater of so many citizens that they now have, through lawsuits that they've lost and through the state, they now have to pay for all that damage.
And we're paying for their mistakes.
We're paying for their mistakes that they knew were going to happen.
So it's not even a mistake.
So they're privatizing all the profits. They're giving themselves multi-million-dollar bonuses every year, and building fossil fuel infrastructure with our money and asking us to pay for their mistakes. They're socializing all the losses. Privatizing all the profits, socializing all the losses. That is a problem to our democracy. That is a major catastrophic problem to our democracy when a corporation has more rights than we as citizens do. And if you're out there and you can see this, even if it's just one of you, get involved. Come help us out with this, because we have a major issue when we have less rights as citizens than one corporation has.
Right. Okay. So obviously there's some issues that need to be talked about. And if somebody wants to get plugged into the conversation and be part of finding a solution and brainstorming this, what's the best way for them to do that?
So there's a lot of ways. Facebook is actually a really great tool. Oddly enough, you can go check us out, Community Roots on Facebook. You can go to our website, cmroots.com.
Okay.
You can check out, there's another nonprofit that's kind of leading this charge with challenging these issues legally, called CELDF, CELDF.
CELDF? Okay.
Yeah, it stands for Civil Environmental Legal Defense Fund.
Okay.
And they've been really successful. They were the first country in the world that was able to codify rights of nature into their constitution. Was in Ecuador. I feel like you'd be.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
and CELDF helped that get done.
Interesting.
Write
Gotcha.
that piece of legislation.
All right. So for everybody who's either watching or just listening, we'll obviously have these websites up there so you can click through them very easily.
Great.
And through the Community Roots or anything, is there any events or places that you all regularly spend time at, hang out at, get together to talk, brainstorm, and whatnot? And how does somebody find out about that, or outside of the website?
Yeah, so one of the reasons we've had as much success as we've had in the last 6 months is we don't just meet once a month. We have multiple different types of groups that all work together to make this possible. So we've got a spirituality team, we've got an outreach team, we've got a legal team, we've got a direct action team. And you can plug into any one of those. Each one of them meets every week, and then the whole team meets every other week. So there's lots of opportunities to plug into. We have a marketing team. So whatever people's skill sets are, I always tell people, whether you're a bed, whether you bake bread or make beds, the reality is we can use you, and we need people to get involved.
And Facebook is the best place to find out what these events are and start just saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of this comes down to us as a community standing up and approaching this legal system that should be for us, the people. And challenging this, and we can win.
Right.
Make no mistake about it. 200 communities have passed ordinances.
Proof of concept is there.
It's there. So, but we need people involved.
All right. Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on today and just sharing your thoughts and insights on obviously what's a very big deal issue. Whether you believe on it from an environmental perspective or not, I think anytime any of your utility bills are looking at a 17% increase, you should know why that's happening. And take the time to decide what side of the conversation you want to land on.
So many people in this country have literally went to wars and fought for our liberties, died. I bet most people out there have a family member that they've lost or that has been irrevocably affected by war. They have went and fought and died for these type of issues that we right now here at home have as a problem with a major attack on our liberty. And most people know it. You always hear people talk about, corporations have more rights, but there's a way to combat that.
But it all feels so distant typically, right?
It all feels so distant.
It's right here.
It's right in your backyard. It affects you on a real local level. And I think those are the places that, if you're willing to go and fight in a war somewhere abroad to fight against injustice, it's essential that you do so here at home. Gotcha. And so that's what we ask people to do is stand with us.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, take the time to get connected with Community Roots. Read a little bit about the articles. Read about the information. If it's something you want to get engaged in, then we'll make sure that you've got the ability to do so. Get the links up for you. And man, in the meantime, we'll stay in contact. It's always exciting to see what you're doing, and really appreciate you coming on. You want any closing words?
We're going to have a video soon of this guy paramotoring around the sky soon enough, so stay tuned for that.
Soon, eh? We'll see how soon that actually happens, but we need to unwrap it first. But once again, y'all, it's Rodrigo, founder of Asheville Real Estate News. I'm here with Tyler Garrison, Community Roots, and looking forward to talking to you all on the next one. Make sure to get connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, for Asheville Real Estate News, and same thing with Community Roots. And until the next one, y'all, have a good afternoon.
Thanks, man.